or good evening, folks. This is Art, and it's the show. It's time for the show. Let's be reasonable, folks. Tonight, I got to tell you, first of all, hey, happy Thanksgiving to you. I know it's a few days beyond that, but guess what? I know you had a great time. I had a great time too with my family. And of course, now it's time for us to get back to it. Remember, this is a program dedicated to the 2024 election and the issues primarily. I got to tell you, my issue is really foreign policy and economics. However, we are going to deal with some other issues, but let's get these items off the table first. So tonight, I'm going to spend 2 minutes and listen to Donald Trump talk about TPP2. And the reason why I want to talk or listen to it and then talk about it on the other side is because I brought it up in one of my previous videos where I was discussing tariffs being a tax. And of course, my solution was if you weren't going to do tariffs, you needed to do TPP. Tariffs turn out to be bad for the U.S. economy. Therefore, hang your hat on TPP and get those Pacific Rim countries in order to contribute to the trade situation in the United States. Now, why do we want to do that? Because China is a rogue actor, right? Since China is a rogue actor, we can't trust them with our intellectual property, and we can't trust them not to manipulate their currency. Since they're doing that, we need to reposition those businesses that we have in China out of China and into these other regions. Why do we want to do that instead of bringing them back home? Well, we can't bring all of these jobs back home. And the reason is because there's only a workforce population in the United States of about 170 million people. And all of these jobs that you have in China, you're looking at about 730 million people. So at best, what you could do is onshore or bring back to the United States those high-end jobs, but the low-end jobs, just there's no place for them here in the United States. Now, I also offered, if you weren't going to put these jobs in the PAC rim, in the Pacific region, then you could put these jobs in Central America and in South America, and you could, in essence, extend the North American Free Trade Agreement. Just make it North and South America Free Trade Agreement. And of course, that kind of packs a 1-2 punch, because guess what it would also do? It would help your issue at the border. If these people, and I use the term these people, if the people at the border are coming because they want better opportunities, if they have opportunities at their home or in their homes, guess what? Less likely that the border issue is an issue going forward. All right. So it solves a number of problems. All right. What I want to do at this point, I just kind of brought you up to speed. What I want to do now is just turn it over to Sir Donald Trump, right? We're going to listen to what he has to say, and then we're going to talk about it a little bit more on the back end, because I do believe it's worth the discussion. So hold on for a second. Here we go. Let's go ahead and listen to what he's got to say.
One of my greatest honors as president was to terminate the globalist monstrosity known as Trans-Pacific Partnership my very first day in office. That's when I did it. TPP was an Obama-Biden sellout of the American worker, fully supported by Ron DeSanctimonious. The TPP would have massacred the U.S. auto industry, and it also would have been a catastrophe for family farmers, but thankfully for the American workers, I killed the TPP before it ever could kill you. I stopped it immediately right in its tracks. Now crooked Joe Biden is back trying to resurrect TPP under a different name, but it's really just TPP2. The entire concept is to make it easier to outsource American jobs and factories to Asia by reducing every possible barrier to shipping your jobs overseas while punishing American producers for doing business here at home. They want to really punish the American worker, including American auto workers. You're going to be out of business. You better talk to your unions, because you're going to be out of business. Crooked Joe is doing the bidding of Wall Street, of foreign countries, and of everyone else who owns him. But he's stabbing auto workers, manufacturing workers, and American families in the back. Under the Trump administration, TPP2 will be dead on arrival. We will kill it immediately. We believe that other countries should pay for the privilege of selling their products to the American market. And we believe that the United States should not have to export American jobs to buy the loyalty of foreign nations that we are paying billions of dollars to in order to defend them. Vote for Trump, and we will keep our auto industry intact. We will add jobs in our auto industry instead of losing it, because if you vote for Biden, your auto industry is gone. We will keep our factories, and we will keep everything going the way it's supposed to. Our country is a failing nation under crooked Joe Biden. We're not respected anywhere in the world. Our country is a disaster. We're going to make our country great again. There will be no surrender. There will be no problem. It's going to happen fast. Thank you very much.
Okay, so
It's
first and foremost,
Florida, Mr. Biden.
as I get that turned off, first and foremost, let me start by saying this. He talked about three. I heard a lot, but there were three main pieces that I took some issue with. The outsourcing of American jobs. If Trump is reelected, I don't care how you look at this, right? The trajectory that he had us on still led to jobs being outsourced in the United States. Okay, jobs leaving the United States, going someplace else. So you might say that there are obviously some job losses that we would experience. That would still be the case. Now, the other part that you need to understand is that you remember he did NAFTA, what I call NAFTA 2.0. If he's going to use TPP2, I'm going to use NAFTA 2.0. If you remember NAFTA 2.0, remember that the heart of the NAFTA original agreement was that 60% or 62% of all the job work that was being done needed to be done in Canada, America, and in Mexico. Okay, that was part of that free trade agreement. That 62% with the USMCA, which is Trump's NAFTA 2.0, that number went from 62% up to 75%. Now, that says 75% of the job or the work that needs to be done in order to manufacture these vehicles must be done in Canada, America, and in Mexico. Right. All right. So that means that roughly 25% is still, well, if you really look at the numbers, still made in China and then transported to the United States. Now, putting this issue in context, you need to think about the world trade situation. We have a sinking position when it comes to world trade. And I just want to show you just a chart that kind of spells that out, what I'm talking about here. When you look at the graph here, this has been our position. This is the United States, this is China, since really, let's just say mid-70s, okay? The United States position in trade has been against the backdrop of the Chinese growing influence in trade. Okay, so as the growing influence in trade has continued, the job losses around 2000 in particular becomes more steeper. So there are a lot of jobs that were leaving really around 2000, going to places like China, right? So they can get work done cheaper and bring those goods back into the United States. Now, and what I was saying about the USMCA, which is the NAFTA 2.0, it sounds good that 75% of the vehicles will be made between Canada, the America, and Mexico. However, here's the problem. What we really needed NAFTA to do, and what we really needed USMCA, which is the NAFTA 2.0, what we needed that to do was to prevent companies from utilizing that cheap labor someplace else. Well, that didn't happen. And there's probably a number of reasons why that couldn't happen. All right. I won't get into that tonight, but that's you might say, the sticking point in this whole discussion, keeping jobs here in the United States. Because this decline that you see, and then you see China overtaking us, and they actually overtook us somewhere around 2010 or so. And now they're kind of the leader in when it comes to world trade. And that's a problem. Right. So this shrinking position that you see the United States in when it comes to world trade has ripple effects. Okay. Those ripple effects we can see throughout our U.S. economy, the job losses, right? The job losses leads to, you might say, a large amount of rage and despair. And that rage and despair then turns into people turning to substance abuse. And all of these things, I'm telling you, folks, has their roots in the trade process or the trade negotiations that hasn't happened in the United States for quite some time. We haven't had leadership from Congress, and we really haven't had true leadership from the White House on this particular issue. Because, again, I tell you, everything that ails you in this country, I'm going to be able to tie it back to your trade position in the world. As you lead in trade, less rage and despair. The more you give up that position in trade, more rage and despair that's created. So, and a couple other things I just want to kind of point out to you. Trump mentioned job losses in manufacturing, job losses specifically with auto workers and the rest. I do want to show you a chart on just, I would say, the growth in the United States when it comes to trade, because I believe that's important that you need to understand. But I'm going to look at manufacturing in particular. So I'm going to blow that up here and point you to it in just a second. Okay. So the high water mark for trade, and especially manufacturing, right, is right about here. Okay. And this again is right during you might say, the 1979 mark. Since this is our high water mark. Okay. So this is our benchmark of where when things were great in this country, this is where it happened. Okay, so I was trying to write it out, but since I can't really do that with the annotation tool, I will stop. So this is the high water mark, right? It's important that you understand why that's important. Ever since then, we've been on this steady decline when it comes to manufacturing jobs. And you can see from 2010 going forward, we started to do some increasing. You can see, I can tell you that during the Trump administration, when you look at the percentage of growth of manufacturing jobs, it's less than what you saw during the Obama administration. And it is less than what you see with the Biden administration. So he's sandwiched in between two administrations that did better than his administration. And you don't have to take my word for it, right? You don't have to take my word for it. Let me show you what this is, the Heritage Foundation. This is what they said. Pull that man here. And okay, so this is the Heritage Foundation's comments. This was in 2019, right? The Heritage Foundation, this is a right-leaning organization. They told you that tariffs are hurting the United States. They told you that in 2019. This is a right-wing organization. The other organization that said something about it too happened to be the Wall Street Journal. The Wall Street Journal had this to say. Let me pull it up and let you see it too. The reason why I bring these articles up, because I don't want you to think that this is just my opinion on it. There are leaders in industry that have the same opinion. So when you see these folks tell you that, hey, the Trump trade war was a loser. And this is an article that was written in September of this year, September 11th of 2023. Why was it a loser? It was a loser because it destroyed what? Manufacturing in places like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. So when you have the Heritage Foundation, right leaning, you have the Wall Street Journal, right leaning, these groups telling you that this president is bad for the economy. I believe, you don't have to take my word for it. I'm an independent, but you should listen to at least those people. What they're trying to tell you is that when it comes to this particular issue, the president or the former president was he's outmatched in that arena. When he talks about having this tremendous capacity to make deals and the rest, well, it just shows you that he really doesn't know what he's doing, right? And I brought up this chart before. This is probably the last chart I'm going to bring up before I let everyone go for the evening. But when you see this chart, I mean, this kind of solidifies the fact that Trump has no idea what he's doing. When you look at this chart, I brought this up the other when I was talking about tariffs last week. When you look at this again, this was the 2017 baseline, the blue dotted line here. This is what they actually did. The red line up here is what was promised. And remember, the promise came out of a deal reached by the Trump administration, Robert Lighthizer and others, right? Trump got out there and was trumpeting this deal that he's got the Chinese to yield, right? And they are going to buy more exports from the United States, and they are going to step up their game, and promised all these different things when in reality, $500 billion worth of exports versus the real number, which was 300,000 worth of exports, which was pretty consistent with the 2017 baseline where we knew they were going to be, right? Pretty consistent. That's where they ended up. In other words, they had zero intention in listening to what Donald Trump had to offer them. Okay. And because of that, that's the reason why you're experiencing the inflation that you are experiencing. Now, I did tell you, and I still believe that part of that is stimulus. The money that the Trump administration put into the economy to help the American family during COVID, and money the Biden administration put into the economy in order to help the American family, that ran inflation all the way up to 9%. Inflation right now is about 3%. But the American people are still feeling that pain. And the reason they're still feeling that pain is because those tariffs still exist. That's the bottom line. So when you hear or see Donald Trump out there trying to trumpet his notion of what he could do for the economy and for the American people and all of that, I'm going to tell you right now, buyer beware of this guy. Buyer beware, because I don't care what you say. Gas prices were a little lower, sure, okay, but I'm telling you, the reason why you're experiencing a whole lot of angst at the grocery store and at every other retail outlet that you're trying to spend money in, right? The reason why you're experiencing that is because of Trump. That's it, people. So the sooner you understand that, the sooner we could start to pivot. Because again, as I told you, our position when it comes to world trade is shrinking, right? And as that shrinks, so does your economy shrink, right? And then so does job growth. It shrinks. And so does the rage and despair. It actually amplifies. It creates that rage and despair that you're currently experiencing. And if you elect this guy again, there's going to be more of that rage and despair, right? And I'm closing, right? I'm letting you go. So I really would like people to like and subscribe, like and subscribe. But here's the last thing I'm gonna leave you with. Something I want you to really think about. Now, when I was in school, and it's been a few years since I've been in school, I'm talking about college. I had a professor that he was a political science professor, and old Dr. Crittenden. He explained it to us in a classroom setting one day that the difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party is this. He said that the Republican Party is the daddy party, and the Democrat Party is the mommy party. All right. And when Johnny needs a new pair of shoes, if he goes to daddy, daddy's going to tell him, hey, you're going to have to wait until payday. When we get paid, then we'll go out and get you some new shoes, son. Okay. All right. But mommy, you know what mommy's going to do? Mommy's going to go out that night and she's going to buy those shoes. And when daddy finds out that mommy spent that money, daddy's generally not that happy, right? But in this particular case, the reason why I relate that story to you is to tell you this. The daddy party in this particular exchange hang their hat on fiscal responsibility and leadership and cutting taxes and cutting deficits and cutting spending and all of these different things. I'm going to tell you, Republicans can't run on that anymore. And the reason why they can't run on that is because I just told you, you see what's happened with world trade under supply side economics. It's been an abysmal showing. Okay. It has. That is the reason why you see them making this hard pivot to the social issues. That's the reason why they're running on fictitious issues with CRT, critical race theory. They're not teaching that in schools, but they got everybody juiced up on it, right? Because they can't talk to you about the economy. They can't talk to you about world trade and its importance. They can't point to any legislative victories because there aren't any in this particular space. There aren't any, and there haven't been any since really NAFTA. Okay, and you look at USMCA, whatever the hell Trump did. That's really not a legislative accomplishment. Of course, everybody agreed to it, but at the end, we're just on tickling shit. Sorry, we're tickling stuff around the edges. We're really not solving any problems, and that's what we need to be about doing. So this party can't run on those strong issues because they have a poor record that they will be pointing to the American people. They can't blame that on socialism. You can't blame it on socialism. You can't blame it on communism. You have to look at the record of supply side economics. Now, I'm going to tell you, I am a independent. I can tell you the benefits of supply side economics, but I can also tell you about the deficiencies within supply side economics because there are many, right? But my point again is the reason why the daddy party is in the position looking at those mommy issues is because they can't run on the daddy issues, folks. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell. All right, folks, I've held you up long enough. Hey, like and subscribe. If you have any comments, leave them in the comment section. I'm going to be better about getting those comments and getting back to you. It's important that we do that. Also, tell your friends about us. I think that there's going to be a lot of good conversations that come out of this that are very beneficial to the American people. And like I said, these are common people. I'm a common person just like you. I see these things happening. I just have, I think, a more in tuned eye for these items than most people do in this particular subject matter, right? But I'm just like the rest of you. I'm just a guy that gets up and gets at it every day of the week, just like you do. and I'm bringing you information that you need to know, folks. So, hey, all that being said, hope you have a great evening, and I look forward to being with you again over the weekend in order to get you the top 5 news stories of the week. Can't wait. Hope you have a great evening, and look forward to talking with you soon.